Minister, at the start of this, I'm going to first say I'm disappointed, number one, you coming from the farming background, that you wouldn't accept this bill. If you wish to have amendments to this bill, I would have welcomed that. But you outright, as a farmer, coming from the farming sector, which I come from myself, and my mother and father were farmers, I'm so disappointed that you wouldn't do this for the protection of the family home. This bill will pave the way for the new state-run institution that will give low-interest credit to all farmers' enterprise. It will give access to credit for farm enterprise. This means credit and access to capital in rural Ireland, which will boost the entire rural economy. The reason why I said, Minister, at the start that I'm disappointed that you're coming from the farming background, a lot of the problem the farming sector have of raising funds throughout the years has been the detriment of your predecessor government and yourselves on what the changes you have made to government in legislation that you brought in and rules. 2011, you told the farmers of this country, white gold, invest in white gold, raise the national herd, invest in white gold and milk. They need milk around the world and they're looking at the farmers. What did you come out with this year? Reduce the herd by 25%. So an investment in a farm that they invested on what the government have told them to do, you now reverse it with the stroke of a pen. Every time you change a government, you reverse it. So the money that they borrowed in 2011 and 12 and onwards to invest on the advice by government, you say today, no, reduce the herd by 25%. Now, I would firstly, again, like to thank the Rural Independent Group, but mainly I would like to thank Deputy Michael Collins here for the work that he has put into this bill and getting it to this stage. I would also like to thank the contribution and the work that was taken out by Edmund Honahan on the work and the legal experience that this man has, and the knowledge and the first-hand knowledge from his previous career that he was in, that he knew first-hand how he could help. Whereas your paperwork today is written for you by the department who actually caused this problem in the first place. And now we have a man with legal experience, of a lifetime of legal experience, has given you solutions, and you won't even accept the bill and try and introduce amendments into it to save the family home, to separate the family home from the family farm. That's the disappointment that I have. I know you're not a bad person, but you're taking legislation and rules from a department that write it for you and tell you that this is right. Well, they're wrong. Legal expertise that we have outside the fold are telling you it's wrong. Why don't you seek legal opinion yourself on it? It will tell you that the departments are telling you it's wrong, because all they're doing is protecting vulture funds. Now, the banks in this country have sold off loans. You call it shadow banking, you can call it what you like, you call it vulture funds. Those vulture funds are the banks then can actually foreclose on your loan or call in the loan and tell you that they're going to foreclose on it. But that same bank under laws cannot introduce, excuse me. Sorry, just lost my train of thought there for a second. Sorry, I just have it here. They cannot introduce an examiner because it's not the bank's loan. Did you know that? Did you also know, Minister, that the farm retirement scheme, that if there's a debt on the farm, that the farm retirement scheme can be pulled in to the debt of a loan by the way of exhaustible execution? Can you imagine the wording of it? That can be called in to the debt of a farm, which the government and the previous governments have caused. It's so disappointing here today that you would not accept the bill, even without amendments, or with amendments, from a farmer background. I look at this of the future-proofing of farming into the future. I look at this of why has there been failures in this country of protecting the farm, so why hasn't it grown? Is there any other enterprise in Ireland, SMEs in Ireland, would take the same sustainability and take all the different changes every time there's a change of government and sustain their business? Look at the cost at the moment of different things that make a difference in farming. Agriculture is very much affected by the shocks in the market. The most of the industries would only consider a bump. Take, for instance, weather, crops, Brexit, fluctuation in raw material production. Example, a while ago I said to you, milk prices, the price of meat, the price of energy, fertiliser. All these things come in the margin of farming. All these things are changed every time there's a change of government. And all this bill was here was mainly to protect the family home and invest in the farm so the future generations would look at it as a viable business for the heritage of your family, of my family, and all the other families of farmers, sons and daughters that are here that went on to different jobs to see the family home would be protected for generations to come. But it would also incentivise the next new young farmers. I was out last week on a tractor run with Mochran the farmer, the next entrepreneurs of farming. And I do hope that they get all the support that they can get, because they're taking on an uphill battle, because every time there's a change of government, they're changing the rules. These are the next generation, Minister, that I know in your heart that you want to see survive. But every turn of a key, you put something else on them. You've got to give so much of your land and plant trees. They do it. You've got to change the way that you spread slurry. They do it. You have to change the amount of fertiliser you put in the ground. They do it. They change everything around for government and still trying to sustain. But every 10 years, all their borrowings, they have to go back again and borrow again to come up with a sustainable way that we have departments that tell them how to run their farms, and they do it. You come out and say that the farming industry is the biggest polluter in the country, and we've proven without a shadow of a doubt. It's the local authorities there with the failed sewerage systems around the country. But you want to blame everything on farmers. That's not right. I want to see the protection of the next generation of farmers, that they can see that it's a viable business in food production for this country. God help us if anything happens around the world and we look for the farming sector, the tillage sector to protect us, who are the ones we called to when COVID came. We called to the farmers to grow wheat, barley and oat. That's what you called for them to do, but you've them over-regulated. You've killed the farming industry every time you went into government in coalition with somebody else. You've killed it. The very farmers that voted for you for many generations, but like the farming, your numbers are going down because they've lost belief in the government as it is today to represent the farming community. You're the same trajectory as the farming. You've killed yourselves by not protecting the farming industries. You've killed yourselves by not protecting industries. And still you haven't learned. And today you have the experience of the retired Master of the Court, who have lifetime experience of how we can help, because it was in front of him every day of his life. And you won't take that on board because you'll listen to your department. They've lied to you. And it's time now, Minister, you stood up, get legal advice outside of it, and look at the bill. And I'd ask you to come back If you want to amend the bill, we'll work with you. But do not turn down this bill, because it's the protection of the farm, it's the protection of the family home for every farmer's sons and daughters, husbands and wives, partners in this country. That's what we're asking you to do. So before you go against this bill, think of that. And I'm asking you to go back and just say that you will accept the bill, but you want to put in amendments. That's all I'm asking you to do.
Thank you, Deputy.